Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BARCast TV and to the Bar Academy. It is October 29th, 2024. This is our weekly Academy review session where we take a look at open 1v1 tickets. So I've got two today for y'all we're going to look at. This first one was submitted by 26 projects here, going up against another mentor in the Bar Academy. Shout out Nutty Wombats here. So this is going to be played on Canis River. And if you give me 2 seconds, I will give you a little added context to the ticket. So it just kind of air quotes here, need some advice on expanding and initial unit pathing for 1v1s. So that's what we got to work with today from our man 26 Projects, who's sitting at 26 OS. Pretty respectable, right? Once you break into those 30s, I think your opponents can really start punishing you for what you're doing wrong. And Nutty Wombat, I'm sure, is most certainly capable of doing that, right? So let's take a look here. Playing on Canis River, I'm not sure like what you favor. Looks like it's bots here, but really anything's kind of viable on here on this map. So I don't hate bots. Maybe the spawning position could be a little different, but I do like the fact that you can kind of expand equally, so to speak, to all these different areas. You know, nothing wrong with that. So this is a pretty classic open as well. Turn this up, the game speed up a little bit. So what was that, 4 wins? I think this 5th win might be a little excessive here, but you know, no big deal. As long as we don't excess energy, right? We're good to go. What do we have as far as a build queue coming out of this lab? Let me check this real fast. I'm just going to pause and shift queue. Okay, so 2 cons straight away. That's fairly greedy, but, you know, if you can get away with it, that's fine. More wind turbines. So we have a full energy bar here. This is a bit of a blunder. I think we're even accessing E. Yeah. So when you're in this position, yeah, making a radar is strong, but really you just want to put your commander's build power into assisting this first con out. See winds dropping, so you got like a solar queued up after this. There you go. Finally, we get that build power on the lab, and we're like chewing through this energy bar, and then the first con comes out. All right, so we opened 2 cons. Basically, the name of the game is you want 3 cons expanding. I think that's pretty much the name here. Is like, so we have this radar in our main base. I'm seeing like this is a path to expand. This is one path to expand, and then this could be fairly good. Like just coming over here, capping these, maybe go like radar, LLT, and then just come across, you know, cap these, make a radar and LLTs, something like this, right? So that's all you want to do is take expansions, then defend them. You know, spend this metal, windward back up, so we can kind of continue assisting the lab. Around here, I would want to start thinking about adding on additional wind turbines, so don't see that quite yet. And a little bit of inefficient pathing here. So yeah, the second con, you don't need the second con to scale wind. Do you continue to do that? Yeah, this is a little unnecessary. I mean, we have metal in the bank. I mean, no energy. So you could argue that means you should be making a solar here, but I think you could have just been continuing to make wins with your commander to fix your E issues, and then just using this con here to expand here. So as a rule of thumb, I'd say like the 4th con, I like to scale my energy with that. So whether you're playing bots or vehicles, right? Because whether you're playing bots or vehicles, you want 1, 2, 3 cons expanding, and just to defend those. Like that's maybe the greediest you can get. I mean, that can be countered by like all-ins and whatnot, but for this OS range, I think you're kind of safe doing that. This is interesting. You come up here and make the LLT. I do not like that. We just walked past all these mexes we could be taking here, and let's take a look at this radar again. So your radar is protecting like this con, so a con that's over here and a con that's over here. And I'm looking at like where grunts can get into raid you. And yeah, it's, you know, coming down here. Yeah, it's coming through here, right? But say this grunt was to come all the way around and start harassing the con you could have here, capping these mexes, right? Well, then it's your job to have like maybe a grunt here to make sure you can respond to that, but then to be, of course, sending grunts to these paths here to catch any raids that are coming your way, right? So it's like you want to be, I guess you have a mix of maybe like sparsely defending them with a couple grunts here and there. Maybe given this radar range, like I might park a grunt here and park a grunt here to defend the two expanding cons. And then the rest of my grunts are kind of trickling onto the map and trying to catch those enemy grunts raiding you. Okay, this is all right, good. I was like, please don't expand. All right, so you keep the build power on the lab. Beautiful. We're accessing E right now and have no metals, so that tells me reclaim a solar, perhaps, but you don't really want to be in the habit of making these early solars and then reclaiming them, so maybe get the resbot out earlier. And this single grunt is going to be the end of the day. So I can see this, like, right, if we pause and just look, we're out of metal, we're accessing E, and there's two cons scaling E, right? So it doesn't make sense. Big mistake here. Unless you come back and assist the lab, you never want to leave your lab unassisted without build power. Just in general, don't do that. Maybe replace it with like a con turret and a grunt or a construction bot, but yeah, don't do this. Big mistake. We can see we'll start pooling metal here in a second, and that's just not good. 11 grunts. So okay, let me pause here, and man, I wish I had like an autopilot build or something like that to show you, but if you need some advice on expanding and initial pathing, what I would do is kind of like back this up, taking this as your main base and asking yourself, okay, how many grunts or how many cons, I keep saying grunt, how many cons do I need to split the map in half, right? And let's kind of maybe count. Okay, so you'd want like one expanding con this way. You want one expanding con this way. Think you would make another one going here. And then another one going here, right? So that's 4. But the 4th con scales wind, right? So that means we have 5 cons to split the map. And let's just round it, like, just add another one. Maybe you want to send like one more con to come over here and start making the geo, right? So let's just call that 6 cons. So you would want to have queued up in your build order 6 cons and some ratio of grunts, right? Whether it's like what we saw you do 2 cons first and then make like 10 grunts, 2 cons, 10 grunts, 2 cons, right? And then you're at 6 cons. That might not be ideal or perfect, but I guess the theory is just have built into this queue what you need to split the map in half, and then of course like just infinite grunts afterwards. But then you never have to worry about coming back to your lab really and then telling it, oh, I need a con to expand, right? And that frees your APM up to like be microing and defending and issuing build orders and all the other myriad of things you need to do in the game, right? So I think if you're looking specifically for advice on expanding, I would just, in the context of any map, just kind of, you know, think about what pathing, I mean, you want at least 3 cons expanding, right? But most of the time it's between 4 and 5 cons you need to split the map in half on like a medium-sized map like this, right? So that's kind of what I would take away. I'm also noticing a few other like mistakes, like leaving this lab unassisted is like kind of huge because now we're not accessing metal, but we have metal in the bank and we're accessing E, right? Which is just not ideal. Even some indecision here. Okay, so just another point in general. The higher up you get, like in OS, the more you want to be like proud and confident with your units, right? So it's like I'm seeing LLTs here, I'm seeing LLTs in the main, right? And you're making LLTs with your commander, right? What you want to be doing is leading back to like the point I was making earlier. It's like you want to be defending yourself with units and radars, right? And feel confident that you can react to like these radar signatures in time and like move units into position, or just in general micro, like, you know, get your units in a line and don't trade like egregiously bad, right? But like this part of the game, we're still in the early game, I'd say, is you're just trying to defend these cons, right? And it's not done with just LLTs here, like blocking a choke point, right? It's like having radars, you know, like a radar here, and like this is a nice radar spot over here by this mix. There's a few good ones, of course, right? Just get these radars up and defend your cons with grunts. So that's the name of the game. Try and don't make these. Maybe like one LLT for every 3 mechs or something. You might do something like that, you know, and then come over here and expand. But let's continue on. Those are like these are the big things I'm seeing, right? Which, you know, it takes some practice to learn to do all these things kind of simultaneously. I'm seeing a single grunt that could get a bunch of damage. I guess you see that? Okay. So moving some units in position. Right, okay. Let's take a pause here and look at our man, Nutty Wombat. Look at that, look how beautiful this is. Okay. So that's like reversing my pan. Jeez. Just trying to get on his view only. Okay, so what, the contour's up. We have the energy storage already made. 1, 2, 3. Jeez, I'm gonna turn that off. It's just okay. 1, 2, 3. Cons expanding, right? I would call this like a more forward radar. Is there a radar in the main? I don't see one. I think we could say like, okay, there could be like a radar here or something like that. Notice how it like sees across this path crossing. There could be a radar here that sees units moving, you know, attempting to come into this position. I even don't like these LLTs, right? Those are pretty safe, right? But, you know, those could be units. But anyways, this looks really nice and balanced here. Notice how, we're getting a 4th con scaling win, a 5th con coming back here to cap these mexes. So he's going up to 4 cons expanding. And look, just grunts on repeat out of the factory. The commander's sitting here assisting, right? So this is really nice and clean. And, you know, anytime I lose, I always like to look at the replay. And these are the things I'm kind of looking at when I'm just kind of seeing what is my opponent doing so right that caused me to lose, right? Did he have more units at a certain part of the game, or did I feel behind in the mid game? Did he tech better? Did he, you know, so on and so forth, right? These are the kinds of things I'm looking for. It's unfortunate you lost that. And now it's just kind of out of control because, like, look at the army value difference, you know, 20%. And you're pooling metal here, so don't mean to beat you up too bad, but, you know, these are just the things I'm seeing. Look at this, even scaling wind next to the last part of this expansion. Just a crazy man here. Okay. So just want to remind you guys, like, this is the Bar Academy. So if you have any kind of, if you want to submit your own tickets to be reviewed, I would suggest looking at getting involved in Bar Fight Night, maybe playing a match in that league. You can submit tickets to the Bar Academy with like any URL, right? But just let me know if this is something you want to support, you want to see more of. Like the video, leave a comment, let me know if you like this kind of stuff. I'll be happy to continue doing this for you guys. Like, love being part of the Bar Academy and having a chance to help players out. I've submitted my own replays and asked my own questions, so definitely anyone, any skill level can come in there, get some advice. Got a lot of great mentors. So yeah, kind of whizzing through the end of this. I'm seeing the writing on the wall, right? You're kind of getting surrounded and boxed in here. Your opponent is able to kind of free expand. He doesn't even need to make LLTs, right? You have this much pressure on. Of course, he's already Nutty Wombat's already made a transition into vehicles here. Interesting, he's not reclaiming the lab or going for the solar. I think as Cortex, this is kind of like a slam dunk, go for this Geo. Yeah, there, finally it's going up. And incisors versus commanders, just love to see it. The carnage, right? Moved on to 2 factories here, but yeah, that's pretty close to being over, right? See, when you're floating this much metal on vehicles, like to switch into brutes, we see that going up for our man Nutty Wombats, even adding on an extra energy storage. I really like this. This is nice. Adding on the third factory, that's going to get paid for pretty quickly. Maybe would like to see it in range of like the other con turrets. Perhaps that's an argument for reclaiming the bot lab even, but not really the purview of this. And then here's the thing. I'm not sure if you're sensing an air raid, but like whistlers are very slow in 1v1s. You really want to be staying away from these and just making incisors, right? But I know this is kind of outside of the feedback you were looking to get. I think it was more or less what the early game wanted you, what kind of advice you could get with expanding and an initial unit pathing. So yeah, GG's called. And let's move on to our next replay. So yeah, thanks you 26 projects for submitting that. And I would be happy to review another one, right? So maybe follow up in like a week or so. Be happy to take another look at a replay with you. And is this loading into the next one? I think it is. Anyway, so what are some things coming up in the bar community? I know we have like bar fight night going on most weekends, so that should be in the main Discord on the events tab. We have the Omega series coming up next month, right? I think it's the qualifiers and the main event. So that's the 5v5 tournament, LSR and Inda Club put on. Oh goodness, I clicked load twice. Excuse me. Trying to take a sip of water. All right. And then of course next year, looking forward to 2025, right? Excuse me. We're going to be doing what, 3 seasons of the BPL and the Alpha Cup. So there's going to be like 4 1v1 tournaments in 2025. I'll post that. I'll be posting that shortly. I'll give you guys more information on that. But here's the next Academy ticket. Let me try and take another sip of water, and then I will give you guys the context. So we'll load into
Battle
this.
started.
I'll bring up the ticket. This was submitted by our own Jeremy Joe, who I asked him some kind of contextual questions, like how long you've been playing bar, any other RTS experience. He said he's been playing bar about a week. He's watched Brightworks and kind of picked up the game from that, I suppose. He has experience in RTS from StarCraft 2 and a little bit of AoE 4. So that's that. So welcome, Jeremy Joe. Glad to have you playing bar. His opponent is Federone, sitting at 16 OS. So pretty spooky event here. And here we go. We're on Comet Catcher. Now, I'll pause here and just reiterate something, or maybe go back to something I touched on earlier at the very beginning of this video, right? Is your spawning location here is in top right, which is going to slow down your expansions to the farthest reaches of splitting the map in half. Now, maybe you don't exactly split the map in half from these kind of spawning positions. Maybe you get something like kind of weird or funky, but in my mind, ideally, like this spawn here or like this 3 mech spawn I would go for. So let's consider like this 3 mech spawn as a main base. Suddenly you can expand equally in all directions and split the map in half, you know, in theory, as quickly as possible. Now, that doesn't always happen, and as I was mentioning in the Discord with you before reviewing this game, right, there ends up being like a trap in some ways. I don't want to call it a trap. It's just, say you look at this spawning position and we look at like, ooh, unit pathing. Okay, so maybe I send a con this way to expand. I'll send a con this way to expand. I'll send a con here, right? And suddenly we're defending this big like oval shape, right? Which I guess is more surface area, right? Your opponent can attack over here. They can slip in through here. They can slip in this way, through here, right? So there's just a lot of areas to defend, as opposed to spawning here and taking... let me redraw that, sorry. maybe taking something more like this, right? So it's much like a less surface area. And if your factory is here, like putting units into the center of this, suddenly to defend any of these points from your rally is super close, right? So this, I mean, it's just my 2 cents. I'd call it like the oval, like an oval style expanding versus like this shape, right? One I found is a little easier to defend, and I want to say that's why you see so many players just move their commanders straight into the middle of the map, because they're trying to like lock down this part of the board and really just make expansion like this and then split the map, right? So just my 2 cents. I know that's kind of long-winded and we haven't gotten too far into the replay, but yeah, I just want to put that out there. So, you know, specifically exactly what you're doing. I actually really like this. Let me camera zoom. Let me turn that off. I really like this 2 mechs walk, right? However, we've kind of executed it wrong. Let me point this out. So you see you've actually accessed energy. You've accessed 50% almost of the energy you've produced, which is terrible on a solar map, right? Energy, like think of energy as being even more valuable on a solar map because you have to spend so much more metal to get, I guess, an equal number of energy. Anyways, so when you're doing this kind of like 3 mechs open, 1, 2, 3. You with these walks, you have enough energy. You won't stall with your commander, and then you can just make these solar panels without stalling. So another thing to note: solars don't cost energy to produce, right? So you can get away with 1, 2, 3 mexes, and then 2 solars, and then your lab. So huge mistake this early in the game, and that's just, you know, nothing against you. You're new to the game. It's just having like a pretty solid build order is what you're looking for. Even another solar. So like if we look at if we look at our resources, right, we have metal in the bank. We have a full energy bar. We can make a vehicle out, no problem. And not stall, right? Because that's what you want to avoid. Is like stalling on any one of these like 3 resources. Build, power, energy, or metal. So if you're doing a 3 mechs open with a walk, I would advise to always just go 2 rovers first and then con, so you can kind of scout and see what your opponent's doing. Notice how your opponent already has a scout made, but he did something a little different. Went for a 2 mech start, which kind of don't like. Anyways, I got a lot of gripes here. So you were, you know, using up our build power here with our commander. First con's coming out, making this LLT. I don't really like that. I think we kind of touched on this earlier as like being confident with your units. I know you're 20 OS, but ideally what you should be kind of aiming for is getting radar set up. Just maybe another reason to spawn over here is you get better radars that see more of the map earlier, right? And defending yourself with these rovers and radars. Yeah, see, this is not ideal. The only time I'd ever do some kind of like 2 LLT opens like this is if I'm doing like an early walk with my commander. And of course this walking and circling isn't very good. You want to think of your commander as like having this huge amount of build power, right? And anytime you're not using it, all of it, right, you're losing out on efficiency. And what do I mean? Like, okay, we see we're stalling energy right now. That means your commander isn't using all of his potential build power, and you would want to fix this immediately. You're like, right now your LLTs aren't going to shoot, but pretty soon your mexes won't either. So here's a cute little fact that you might not have noticed. It took me a while to know this. Construction vehicles actually produce 10 energy per second, so which is half of a solar. So that took me a while to figure out. But anyways, say Jeremy Joe, I know you were looking for, I think you were looking for like just how to spend your resources. Okay, so you said at the start, tricky map without wind, but I still wasn't sure how to utilize the massive overflow of resources. 3 chevrons, 20 OS. Okay, so I won't go too far into this, but I'm going to explain like the big picture thing that you can apply in pretty much any situation in bar, right? So hopefully some people are there maybe chuckling, and they're chuckling right now because they know exactly what I'm doing. But think of this triangle, right? Build, power, metal, and energy. And let's look at it in the context of you right now. So which one of these do you have excess of? Which one do you have a deficiency in? Well, I can see like, okay, we have no energy. So I'd like put that low. We have some metal, so maybe I'll fill that triangle up. And we have a decent amount of build power, honestly. So really the imbalance you see is you want to fix the amount of E. Right? Why can't I draw? Ooh, because it wants me to label. I don't want to do that. There it is. So any situation you can apply that. Okay, let's fast forward some and ask the same question again. So I'll just put this on 10x. We'll blast through this. Hey, we're expanding. We're adding on LLTs, capping mexes, pretty standard stuff. Got an idle engineer right there. Not ideal. And then I see you've left the factory. This is something you want to avoid, is never having a naked factory. Okay, so let's pause. 6 minutes into the game. Let's think about the same context, right? I'll draw the triangle again. You tell me, pause the video. What do we have a deficit of? What do we have an excess of, right? Answer this for yourself. Looking at the energy bar and the mass bar, I can see, all right, well, we are almost halfway full of metal. We have a full energy bar, right? That means, this one might not be so intuitive, but that means we have a deficit of build power, right? We have these resources in the bank and we want to be spending them. Like these resources could be units on the board that can be harassing, can be expanding, can be defending ourselves, right? So the deficit we have now is build power, and you would want to be adding on con turrets and construction vehicles to solve this, right? So this takes a while to learn and balance, but I would, Jeremy, if I were to give you advice, is like at any point in the game, look at those two bars, right? Look at your metal bar, look at your energy bar, and ask yourself, what do I need more of? What do I have too much of? Do I need more build power, right? So there's a lot more nuance that goes into like what units to make, where to expand to, right? How should I be? When should I make energy converters? When should I make energy storage, right? When should I be teching? There's all these questions, right? But I think the real root, the backbone of an understanding and how to macro and how to approach this game is to just think about this triangle and trying to spend these three resources in as much harmony as possible, right? So that I know I could get really far into this, Jeremy, and I suppose you can come back, right? Submit another replay, keep playing, you know, maybe lose a couple more games. I'd be happy to continue coaching you. I'm sure there's a lot of mentors who would like to see you come back and keep coaching. And I'll pause again and look at the net and ask you again. So this is like, 3 minutes later, right? Now we have a full metal bar and full energy, and we're still light on build power. So, and that just means, yeah, con turrets and construction vehicles. So I'll leave you with this. Cute little way to scale everything kind of harmoniously is you go, one con turret and then an advanced solar. Con turret, advanced solar, and then build those in this like 1-to-1 ratio after you have a big like backbone of basic solars, right? So that I think I might end it here. That's around 30 minutes. I hope you aren't looking for anything more, Jeremy. If you do have specific questions from this, I'd be happy to continue the conversation in the Discord, and I'd invite you all to join the conversation as well. So I'll leave a link in the description. It's the Bar Academy. It's been there forever. There's a lot of great mentors. There's a lot of great people there, just always talking, always asking questions. So if you're looking to improve at Bar, if you're new to Bar, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, come back. We're always doing these kinds of things, and I'd be happy to help you all out. So that's me. Don't know about you all, but this is cute. Actually kind of on top of his factory here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll leave this to kind of play and run out. Maybe you guys can. This is 18 minutes long, right? So we got another 3 minutes here. Yeah, now here comes the counterattack. Okay, commander pulls back, and I think I see you winning this game. Actually, wow. Okay. Well, you turned on the build power and spent that metal. All right, Jeremy Joe, you got me. You gotta submit losses, man. That's how you do it. I don't want to watch this, but anyways, yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. Leave a like. Let me know how I'm doing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.